Hello class, and welcome again to lesson 4 of CSS. And in this particular lesson we're going to look at the CSS color. And what is a color property? The CSS color property is used to define the color of the text, and the text could be within the HTML element. And when we are specifying the colors, there are three ways in which you can specify the color. One is using the color names, for example, red, green, purple, or so forth. The second way of specifying colors is using the RGB value, and the third way of specifying the color is using the hexadecimal values. So without a further ado, let's get started and see how we can specify colors using these three ways. So the first thing, I'm going to specify color using the color names, and then I'm going to specify the color using the RGB value, and then I'm also going to specify the color using the hexadecimal values, and I'm going to explain all of these. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to turn over to my Visual Studio Code, and in our Visual Studio Code you can see that we have this external file called about styles, which we have linked it to about page. And now in this our style, we have only applied the background color to this. But now what I want to look at here is I want us to look at the color property of CSS. So the color property will apply the color to the text. So I'm going to say that for the body, make the text to have the color red. And now when I go back to my browser, and you're going to see that the color of this text in the body has turned to red. So this way of specifying color is what we are calling it the color name. So you can directly type in the color names: red, blue, white, black, and all that. So this is the first way you can specify CSS colors using color names. Another way is using the RGB value. And what is RGB value? An RGB value is a combination of three main colors: the red color, the green color, and the blue color. With the combination of these three colors, you can be able to get any color of your desire. So when you are specifying the color using the RGB value, you will use this syntax right here. So you will type RGB, and then in a bracket you specify the value of red, specify the value of green, and specify the value of blue. And these values could be any number between 0 and 255. So with that said, let's see how to apply color using RGB value. So we go back to Visual Studio, and instead of using the color name here red, I'm going to say RGB, and then in the bracket I'm going to specify the value of red. Let me say 0, and I'm going to specify the value of green 0, and then I specify the value of blue, say 0. So with this color combination, when I combine 0, 0, 0 for the three colors, I'm able to get a color black. So let me change the values and maybe change this value to 255 and 0. So with 255, 0, 0, you're able to get color combination of red. And with 0, 0 and 255, you're able to get a color combination of green. So the maximum value of green is 255, maximum value of red is 255, and maximum value of blue is 255. So with that color combination, you can then change the values depending on your desire to get the color you want. So now when I save this, you're going to see that the text color changes to green. So with the RGB value, you can as well specify the opacity. And what is opacity? Opacity refers to the transparency of that color, how that color is transparent. So you can then add a fourth value after this and say the opacity maybe is 0.3. And so when you say 0.3, you're going to see that the green color is a bit more transparent. So the opacity value can be any value between 0 and 1. could be any value between 0 and 1. And if you remove now the opacity in your code, you're going to see that the full green color gets back right here. The third way of specifying these colors is by using the hexadecimal values. And so in this case, you specify the color using the hexadecimal value. And what is hexadecimal value? Hexadecimal numbers is any number between 0 and F. So it could be any number 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 9, or from A, B, C, D, E, F. And what is the syntax for specifying colors using hexadecimal? We specify color using this syntax right here. So you start with a hash, and then you specify the value of red, 2 values of green, and 2 values of blue. So in total you have 6 numbers, which represent 2 represent the red, 2 represents the green, and 2 represents the blue. So let us take an example to see how we can specify a color using hexadecimal value. So I'm going to go back to our Visual Studio, and now here, instead of specifying the color using RGB value, I'm going to specify now the color using the hexadecimal value. And to specify color using hexadecimal value, you're going to start with the hash, then you can give the value of red, maybe let me say 22. I give the value of green, maybe BB, then I give the value of blue, FF. So with that color combination, you're able to see that you have this color right here. And now when you turn to your web page, you're going to see that the text color changes to blue. And you can then adjust the values here and maybe say 55, and you're going to see that you have a different value. If you say 00, then you can see that you have a different value. So with that fluctuation of values, you can be able to have any color you want to apply, and that is the way you can specify colors using hexadecimals. So with that said, I want to pause this video here and then see you in the next lesson, where we look at the next property called the background property. Otherwise, thank you for joining this class, and see you in the next lesson.